Chapter 1. On the Kinds of Monks. January the 8th, May the 9th, September the 8th. It is well known that there are 4 kinds of monks. The first kind are the cenobites, those who live in monasteries and serve under a rule and an abbot. The second kind are the anchorites, or hermits, those who, no longer in the first fervour of their reformation, but after a long time in a monastery, having learned by the help of many brothers how to fight against the devil, go out well armed from the ranks of the community to the solitary combat of the desert. They are able now, with no help other than from God, to fight on their own the vices of the flesh and their own evil thoughts. The third kind of monks, an abominable kind, are the Sarabates. These, not having been tested, as gold in the furnace, by any rule or by the lessons of experience, are as soft as lead. In their works they still keep faith with the world, so that their tonsure marks them as liars before God. They live in 2s or 3s, or even alone, without a shepherd, in their own sheepfolds, and not in the Lord's. Their law is the desire for self-gratification. Whatever enters their mind or appeals to them, that they call holy. What they dislike, they regard as unlawful. The fourth kind of monks are those called gyrovagues. These spend their whole lives tramping from province to province, staying as guests in different monasteries for 3 or 4 days at a time. Always on the move, with no stability, they indulge their own wills and succumb to the allurements of gluttony, and are in every way worse than the Sarabates. Of the miserable conduct of all such men, it is better to be silent than to speak. Passing these over, therefore, let us proceed, with God's help, to lay down a rule for the strongest kind of monks, the Cenobites. Chapter 2. What kind of man the abbot ought to be. January the 9th, May the 10th, September the 9th. An abbot who is worthy to be in charge of a monastery should always remember what he is called, and live up to the name of superior. For he is believed to hold the place of Christ in the monastery, being called by a name of his, which is taken from the words of the Apostle. You have received a spirit of adoption as sons, by virtue of which we cry, Abba, Father. Therefore the abbot ought not to teach or ordain or command anything which is against the Lord's precepts. On the contrary, his commands and his teaching should be a leaven of divine justice kneaded into the minds of his disciples. January the 10th, May the 11th, September the 10th. Let the abbot always bear in mind that at the fearful judgment of God there will be an examination of these 2 matters, his teaching and the obedience of his disciples. And let the abbot be sure that any lack of profit the master of the house may find in the sheep will be laid to the blame of the shepherd. On the other hand, if the shepherd has bestowed all his pastoral diligence on a restless, unruly flock, and tried every remedy for their unhealthy behaviour, then he will be acquitted at the Lord's judgment, and may say to the Lord with the prophet, I have not concealed your justice within my heart. Your truth and your salvation I have declared. But they have despised and rejected me. And then, finally, let death itself, irresistible, punish those disobedient sheep under his charge. January the 11th, May the 12th, September the 11th. Therefore, when anyone receives the name of abbot, he should govern his disciples with 2 kinds of teaching. That is to say, he should show them all that is good and holy by his deeds, even more than by his words, expounding the Lord's commandments in words to his intelligent disciples, but demonstrating the divine precepts by his actions.